the segment we are all waiting for, all episode long, every episode long, is Predict a Commit. We're going to do a quick refresher on our two teams. We have had some wins for us since the last episode, so shout out to us. I'll start with your team. You have 3 wins already: Jared Curtis, Carter Lucky, and Jordan Smith. You did suffer a new miss this week in Mark Bowman to go along with Jared Smith from before, but you've got some great opportunities still out there on your team: Derek Cooper, Tyler Atkinson, Kamari Brooks, PJ Dean, Craig Dandridge, James Johnson, Caden Prothro, Desmond Green, Isaiah Williams, and Tico Crittenden. Is that everybody on your team? You took Crittenden last week, right?
That's correct.
So, I mean, I'll say on your list, I'll just, for the people, Kamari Brooks, I think I'm feeling good. Craig Dandridge, Caden Prothro, Desmond Green. Like, you've got some wins coming up in your future. I'll say that. On my team, I've got 4 wins at this point. That is Graham Houston, Zach Fort, Ryan Mosley, and most recently, Justice Fitzpatrick. My only loss at this point so far is Jackson Cantwell, which is going to stay a loss. That's not changing. The rest of my team: Jay Lamar, Malcolm Gaston, Tyreek Green, Ekene Agboko, Brett Colajay, Ernest Rankins, Peyton Dyer, Whitley Cadeau, Alabama commit Chris Booker, and Zyke Helton. I'll say it, Jordan. I like your team better than mine right now. I think we both have some wins, but I can also look at my list and point to, I don't want to say 3, maybe 3 losses that I can point to right now that I don't feel good about at this point in time. We'll see what happens moving forward. But that said, for us to have 7 right now, I think is indicative of the work that we've put in on our Predict to Commit teams in the offseason. I'm going to start. Oh, sorry.
Wait, just going to say, we know ball. I don't care what anybody else says. If no one else believes it, I know that we know ball.
That's right. No matter what Dogs 24/7 commenters are saying about us. All right, this week we're just doing Predict to Commit. As we did with last week, it's just going to be from the list of people who are taking official visits this upcoming weekend that we have not already selected. In many cases, there are a few that are already on our teams. I'm actually going to start here, and I think there's some good choices here. And quite frankly, there's probably going to be guys that go unselected from this weekend that end up in Georgia's class. I'm not ruling that out. But I'm going to go first, and I'm going to take someone that I think might surprise some people, but a guy that I would have in a mock class if I was doing a mock class right now. I'm not going to until the end of official visits. But that is North Shore Houston defensive back Chase Calicut. Chase Calicut, spelled with a C, by the way, Chace. Awesome name. Just a name I can picture Chase Calicut, pick 6, running along the bottom line on ESPN. Like I can picture that. 6'3", 190 pounds. Georgia loves the frame. Definitely someone that I think Georgia is pushing for. And like I've said, when Georgia is pushing for guys this cycle at defensive back, they've had a lot of success. You're seeing the picture right there, him throwing the horns up with Sarkisian. That's probably number one fear for Georgia right now. Does Texas find a way to hold him down? But I know that other out-of-state schools like Michigan have had some buzz at points this spring too. So a little bit of a leap of faith, a little bit of a bold selection. But now that Justice Fitzpatrick's in the boat, I'm trying to say, all right, where are we moving next at defensive back? And Chase Calicut's my choice.
Yeah, I really like that one. I think you hit on the biggest thing is just, if they're going to be able to convince him to leave Texas. I mean, I think about North Shore. If I'm remembering right, North Shore is like a powerhouse, right, in Houston. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, that getting him out of Texas, and I've seen there are some crystal balls for the Longhorns, but I like that pick. If Georgia lands him, I mean, that just adds to what I already think is a fantastic secondary class.
Completely agree. All right, who you got this week, Jordan?
All right, I've kind of gone back and forth on this one because there's a few guys that really interest me as we look at the different options, and I'm going to pull up our screen here while I'm trying to make my choice. And I'm going to go on the defensive line, and I'm going to go with Vodney Cleveland, defensive lineman, 6'3", 305 out of Birmingham, Parker High School. We hit on it earlier in this episode. It's so hard to pull guys out of the state of Alabama, but I'll be honest, Ben, I'm going to give you a hat tip. When you were sort of previewing this set of visitors earlier in this episode, and you talked about how Georgia is, they kind of like to play defensive line close to the vest, and you don't always know who they like and who they're targeting. That kind of got me thinking I should look at one of these defensive linemen. So I went with Vodney Cleveland. I think he's a guy that checks a lot of boxes for Georgia, and he's a guy I'm watching out of the people visiting this weekend. He's going to be my pick.
I love that pick. And, someone on our board, I can't remember what it was a Q&A a couple weeks ago. They were asking our nose tackle. What do we have Vodney listed out there?
6'3", 305 is what he is listed at
so
on
he's maybe
his
not
profile.
the full nose, but people have been trying to figure out who do you think is going to be the nose in Georgia's class? Trying to figure out that zero tag anchor type. And, Georgia's usually looking for 6'4", 330, not saying that he couldn't get there, but I was sitting there trying to think could that be a guy that I haven't been thinking about as much in that role? But yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Georgia went to go see him multiple times this spring. You look at the official visitors, it's going to be a competitive one. That's why he was in my most competitive category, but I do like the pick. I will say that.
I'll say that as we're scrolling through the photos here where the folks on YouTube can watch another photo of a prospect with throwing horns up with Steve Sarkisian. So that's doesn't exactly make you feel great if you're Georgia, and a whole lot of Auburn photos on there as well. Like we said, pulling guys out of the state of Alabama is much easier said than done, but we're going to see what happens. I think it's going to get really interesting when it comes to defensive line in this class.
Yeah, absolutely. And, now that I look at my team, I've kind of shot. I have 2 defensive linemen, but one of them I don't feel great about right now. So we'll see. I probably need to make a move on the defensive line. Defensive line and linebacker is lacking for me right now on my predicted commit team. You sort of handcuffed me with picking Tyler Atkinson as early as you did, because then I think we got to figure things out beyond that. And then on the defensive line, like I said, it's always so hard because Georgia's tricky. Georgia likes to be very, very sneaky on the defensive line, and that's why Georgia defensive line recruiting is so good all the time, because they have evals that they don't want people to know about, and they don't want people to know that they're recruiting some people as hard as they are. I think that's smart.